Hello everybody, I'm back online. This is the first video that I've managed to post and get uploaded since I moved from the southwest of England to the southwest of France. We managed to do it before the borders between the two countries closed on discovery of the new UK variant of COVID, which was spreading alarmingly rapidly. And we actually arrived at our house in the southwest of France 24 hours before all the borders started closing. So it was quite dramatic, and we're very thankful that we were able to get out of the UK on schedule, because we needed to be in France by the 31st of December in order to be there before Brexit. So we were operating on a very, very tight window of opportunity. I thought it would be interesting for you if I filmed part of our journey. So this is what the Eurotunnel looks like. Now, we use the Eurotunnel because it's very convenient for our dog. You can stay with your animal because you stay with your vehicle. And when we used to cross on the ferry, it might take 2 hours depending on where you travelled from. It might take 4 or 6 hours, and he used to get really anxious, and we hated leaving him in the car while we had to go up on deck. So the Eurotunnel is the thing for us, and it means that you just drive to Dover, you have all your passport and all your paperwork ready, you show it, and then you'll wave through to a holding area until your departure time is ready, and they flag it up, and then you drive onto a train. And all the vehicles go on these trains, cars, and we had a little motorhome, and we all pile in there, and then they close the doors on you, and the little train takes you under the sea, and it takes 25 minutes, 30 minutes to get from Folkestone in Kent to Calais in France. And I hadn't ever filmed this before. It's a journey we've done many times, but I thought it'd be interesting if you've not used the Eurotunnel, if you don't know about it, if you're in America or elsewhere in the world. There's no reason you should know about this, but what I love is that you go under the sea, and it spooks me out and it impresses me every single time that we do it. And it's a very easy way to travel to France. Here we are 30 minutes later, rolling through the train container to the outside, and when our wheels hit the tarmac, we will be on French soil. And it's always very exciting to emerge blinking into the sunlight. We were very fortunate that the day we travelled was really dry and bright, because there'd been some horrible weather, lots of wet, rainy weather. And from Calais, which is where we are now, just coming up this ramp, you'll start to see some French signs. But coming out at Calais, we have an 8-hour drive south to get to our new home, and you don't want to be doing that in a thunderstorm or in the rain or in horrible weather. It also means it's easier to stop off on your journey, because there are lots of free places on the motorways to stop off, and you can have some food and something to drink, and you can walk the dog around, and that's always much easier to do in the dry weather. So we really were extremely fortunate on the day that we travelled, for so many reasons. And this is when it gets exciting, when you're actually on the French motorway system and you're picking up speed and you're getting ready to complete your journey south. This is a route we've done several times, but it's still a thrill to see those names of French cities and towns crop up on the motorway. Welcome then to our corner of the southwest of France. We arrived on the 20th of December. We were very lucky that we got here 24 hours before borders started closing between the UK and the rest of Europe because of COVID issues. But we're here now, and I thought I would show you what we've arrived at. We have an enclosed terrace. There's a couple of gates, which is great for Buster. It means that he can roam around in here quite freely, and we know he's safe. And then beyond the gates we have this huge garden. We think we have about 24 trees. It's a big old house, and the little building next door actually houses the central heating, which doesn't work, and a boiler, which does work, and a garage, and a storage area. And then in here we've got a couple of outbuildings, but these are full of the stuff that was left in the house that we had to pull out. As you can see, there's quite a few mattresses, and they do things differently here. They don't always clear the houses, so
we've done an awful lot of that, and we still have some things that we need to dispose of, and that'll happen in time. And then we've got a fig tree here, and all of this garden leading down to the bamboo wilderness. We've got about another 20 feet of garden beyond that line of trees, so there's quite a lot to look after. There are so many apples on the ground here that have fallen from this really old apple tree that you can stand here and get drunk just on the smell of cider apples. I've started trying to box them up and dispose of them somewhere. It can get extremely cold here. It's about 9:30 in the morning, and last night the temperature got down to about -5, and we don't expect it to get much above freezing today, so it's going to be tucking up in the house, sitting over a heater, clutching a hot water bottle and making the best of it. All of the trees are covered in moss and lichen, particularly this sort of long, straggly lichen that you can see just under the branch here. There's a lot of it. I believe it tells you that the air quality is good. The air quality is certainly cold this morning. But all of the trees in the valley of the Dordogne seem to have this all over them. These are our neighbours' chickens. I can hear them clucking around during the daytime when we're working in the garden. It's quite a nice sound. And we've spent most of the days that we've been here when it hasn't been raining, because we have had a couple of very wet days, working in the garden, trying to chop this area down, bring it under control. You can hear our neighbour's dog in the background. That's Nico the dog woofing at me. He protects the chickens. And this tree that I'm showing you is a persimmon tree, also called Sharon fruit, absolutely laden down with these beautiful orangey fruits. They're usually good, I think, sort of towards the end of October and November. Unfortunately, by the time we arrived in mid-December, they were well past their best, but we're watching the garden closely and we can see that the blackbirds really like these. So we're leaving them there because they're going to look after a lot of the birds and wildlife through the winter time. We are indoors. This is the first time filming from the new setup, and I will show you the new setup. There are some real limitations, the biggest one being having only one electricity socket in this room, and that means I can either have heating or I can have lights. So I've opted for heating because it's not much above freezing outside, so it's really cold, and I will remedy all of that, but it means that my filming has to be done in natural light. Now that might be something that turns out to be really lovely, or it might be a limiting factor. We're just going to have to wait and see how it goes. And these are some of the things that I found in the garden. I thought it'd be fun to show you that. Having shown you the journey and the outside space and a little bit about what the house looks like, having done so much work in the garden and found all of these things, I thought it'd be nice to share them. I mean, this particularly is beautiful. I suspect it's a robin's nest, and we found it when we were cutting down just a massive bramble patch that was about 5 meters square. It was just huge, and this was there in the center. It obviously isn't used anymore. It was a nest that had been used and left. The reason I think it's a robin's nest is because that's the bird that we saw fluttering around us when we were working that particular area of the garden. And it's so beautifully made. I've brought it in and it's dried out over a few days and it still holds together beautifully. And I'm in awe of what these tiny little creatures flitting around the trees in our garden can create. So that was the first thing I wanted to show you. The next thing is the amount of acorns that we have. We've got an awful lot of really low-lying, freshly sort of sprung, I don't know how to describe them, little miniature oak trees, and it's because our garden is just absolutely full of these acorns. We have a carpet of all of these, and we're going to have to get on top of all of the little acorn trees that are beginning to shoot up in the undergrowth. But these are beautiful things, just in their own right. They're a lovely thing. This one I was really pleased with because it's still got the main seed attached, and it's just glorious. And this I brought in to show you just because of the way that these have obviously lost their seed bit, and that's probably growing in the garden now. But the colours on this are lovely. It's a beautiful bronzy, light suede sort of colour, and it's a really pretty thing. There are so many of these that have fallen down in the garden. And the other thing is the lichen. So
This is an amazing formation. I really like the colours of this. I like the lightness of it. And it looks almost like something that you'd find underwater. It looks like it could be seaweed. So these are just some of the things that I found in the garden, and I will show you some of the other things, but just to get us started, just to get me back in the filming vibe, because it's been a long time, I wanted to share some of these little things. And at some point I will find the iron and I'll be able to neaten up my cloth that I'm using as a background, and we'll take things as they come. There's an awful lot to do. There's a lot of work to do in the house, there's a lot of work to do in the garden, as well as getting adjusted to a new life in a foreign country as an immigrant to that country. So far everybody's been very warm and welcoming, and any time we've tried our slightly dodgy French, people have been very receptive to us and very enthusiastic that we want to learn the language and absorb the culture. That's what we're going to continue doing. So the next video will probably be a little bit more traditional, along the lines of let's make something, because I am desperate to get making now. I've finally got my craft space organised around me, well, organised-ish around me. I know where the scissors are and I can find my glasses, and I've worked out how to rig up the camera, so that's a big step forward. But it does mean now that I'm really ready to make something, and I want to incorporate as much as I can about what I learn about the garden and the local area into these videos in the future, so that we all learn together, and hopefully I can share a little bit more about what I'm learning with you at the same time. So until we meet again, take care.